Speaking of homelessness, one of the two things we wanted to talk about is we had a federal election, and the Maryam Monsef got reelected. One of her big items was to, within this term, come up with 2,000 more affordable housing units. And Jeff, you've been in politics. You've made promises before, and is this something that we can count on?
Yeah, I think it's a very very important commitment of Minister Monsef. I think perhaps how it should be done. If you go back during the Second World War, I grew up in the South End. About a quarter of the South End housing, when you look at O'Connell Road, Rose Avenue, right around the Peterborough Exhibition Grounds, were all built under the National Housing Act of the 1940s to provide housing for workers that were involved in the war effort. After peace was achieved in 1945, service people came back. Those homes were sold, and over a period of time, maybe those homes were lifted. Basements were put in, and they're great housing stock. So, if I was looking at this program, I think the federal government needs to find a contractor to build. That's the real issue. We need to build. When you look back at the flood on July 15, 2004, the segment of housing that was never replaced after that flood was the bottom 25% quartile when it comes to rent. So I think there's a real opportunity for Minister Monsef to provide direction, get a proposal call out there, and just frankly build those units to address the problem that we just talked about, homelessness, tent city, people with mental health issues. You got to build. That's the challenge.
Do you guys see that happening in the near future? There's been a lot of talk, but is the city doing anything to alleviate it?
Gosh, I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, the federal money's there, and it's not being taken up for whatever reason. And I don't know if they need to sweeten the deal or what the problem is. You know, when I first came here, I think it was still the case, like St. Giles Church down on Park Street put in housing,
Yes.
the big complex up on Armour Road North, I don't remember the name of that.
Auburn Chapel.
Auburn Chapel, the Auburn
Right.
Bible Chapel, yeah, they did a
right.
huge
That's right.
development. Curios was doing stuff,
Yeah.
and that was all with federal provincial money to guarantee mortgages. But it was, generally speaking, not private sector builders who were doing all that. And maybe that's the case again. And for some reason, there aren't public sector groups who are doing it, or charitable groups that are doing it. And I don't know if you, I mean, it happens some. The guys who redid the old Central Public School got subsidies to do that.
The Maloney family.
The Maloney family.
The old St. Peter's.
The old St. Peter's.
Elementary
So
school.
it happens on a scale, but again, those were all 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it seems to have dried up. And I don't really know what, was that money announced out there and it's not happening? I don't know why that is.
And when I grew up in the South End in the mid-1960s, John Robarts was Premier of the province of Ontario. He built Ontario Housing.
Right.
They contracted to people to build it. And I know, you know, there was a question of whether it created some ghettoization because there were so many units together. But we've learned from that experience. So there's a real opportunity with innovative housing models. But I think the government has to contract somebody to build it and get it done.